after we talk to the great Matt Mayoko. Our Can Be Our 49ers insider joins us every Friday. All right, Matt, this is the first time we've had you since the tough news of Sunday. For the first time since both Nick Bosa and Fred Warner were drafted, neither one of them is going to be out there starting for San Francisco, and a large part of that is that Fred Warner missed one start in his career, so Tatum Bethune enter the fire.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any more difficult than that. Like starting his first game wearing number 48, which of course was Fred Warner's number his rookie season, but first start going up against a very hot Atlanta Falcons offense and a player that Raheem Morris, his coach, says is the best player in the NFL period. That's Bijan Robinson. And it's hard to argue with that because he's having a great season. He was fantastic Monday night. And I just can't think of a more difficult opening assignment for Tatum Bethune and heck for D Winters as well than what the 49ers are going to face Sunday night.
You know, it's funny. You look at this Atlanta team, Matty. They got shut out by Carolina a couple weeks ago, and then they get Washington. They beat Washington, and then they get a week 5 bye week, which is just such an early bye week. And they come out of their bye week. They beat Buffalo, and now here they are coming to Levi's for national TV tilt with the 49ers. I don't understand why the 49ers are favored in this game. The 49ers seem to be limping. They're having a hard time protecting their quarterback. They're having a hard time running the football. Here's this loaded, young Falcons team with tons of talent. I know they're crossing country, short week, but it's a young team. I don't know that those factors are going to affect a young team. What do you think? I mean, do you think the Niners should be favored to win this game?
Probably not. I just, I don't know exactly how the point spreads always seem to be right on. I just wonder, do the 49ers always get a little bit of a bump just because, Vegas knows there's always going to be 49ers money coming in because of the proximity and the number of fans, there are 49er fans who are more apt, obviously, to bet on their team. I think the thing about the NFL, though, I mean, you just cited it right there. I mean, the Falcons might have the worst loss in the NFL this season, and they might have the best victory in the NFL this season. And right? I mean, and that's kind of the nature of the NFL is that you just don't know what you're getting from week to week, from game to game. And a lot of times I think that teams have a much more difficult time coming back and playing good football after they play a great game like they did Monday night against the Buffalo Bills than a team that's coming off a bad game. It's almost like it's really difficult, it seems like, for teams to put together back-to-back really strong games. So that might have something to do with it. And also the short week, Falcons are playing, they're coming off a Monday night game and now they're playing a second game in a row. So we'll see if either one of these teams can create any kind of consistency.
Matt, I'm going to argue with you in one regard. The Falcons might have had the second worst loss in the NFL this year. It's going to be really tough to beat Arizona collapsing against the Titans. All that did was just delay Brian Callahan's firing for another week. That was just insanity.
Yeah, no, you're right. I that one had kind of slipped to my mind. I think I was thinking about like the final score. The Cardinals lost to the Titans. Like the final score doesn't look nearly as bad as how it played out in reality. No, I would agree. I was watching Red Zone that day. I'm trying to think. Why was I home watching that? Did the Furnace have a Thursday night game? Or no? What? I can't remember why I was watching that game. But oh my gosh, that was just incredible. With the dropped ball right before the goal line, the interception that actually turned into a touchdown by the team that threw the interception. Yeah, that one. When you play that one out in reality, that was an all-timer, maybe the worst loss in the history of football.
At least in the regular season, it's got to be up there.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Matt, is Mac Jones? I mean, I've loved what I've seen from Mac Jones, and I don't even know what to say about it at this point. I think it may be true that Mac Jones, when it's all said and done, might be the best quarterback from that 2021 draft. He may be better than Trevor Lawrence. He's definitely better than Wilson, Lance, and Fields. Give me your thoughts on Mac Jones. How surprised are you at the success he's had? He's 3-1. He's throwing for 300-plus yards a game. There is no run game. It's all falling on his shoulders, and he's handling it.
Yeah, I don't know that I am all that surprised. I think that in the lead up to the 2021 draft, as I recall, I thought that he was going to be a good quarterback and that he, wasn't necessarily the kind of quarterback that you just put into any system and he's going to be successful. I would think that the more complex, the more detailed, the more buttoned up an offensive system was, the better chance that he would have at success. It wasn't, so many systems, and I think maybe the key thing is just being in an organization that runs the same system year in, year out, that's not changing constantly. And so I thought he would be a good player. I didn't think he would be, just the untuck your shirt tail and have everybody jump aboard and he'd lead teams to victory in that way. But, when you look at it, his career in a lot of ways there's been parallels to Alex Smith where, I've lost track. I think Alex was in a different offensive system, like for 7 seasons of his career. And Mac Jones, it's the same thing. I mean, this is his 5th year in the NFL, his 5th different system. Really, up until this year, the only thing that worked for him was week 1 or season 1, where he was a rookie and he played his best football. And after that, it was horrible. I mean, he had zero chance to succeed with what New England was going through and putting him through as far as, having basically a defensive coach run the offense in year 2. And then every year it just got worse and worse and worse. So, Mac I think he's the kind of quarterback where he can probably run the system exactly how the offensive play designer and the guy who created the system wants it run. And that really works well when you're working a system for a coach who is very good at what he does. And I don't think there's any debating that, Kyle Shanahan's system in his offense has always been thought of as one of the best in the NFL. And it is very detailed, and it is, it's black and white as far as what he wants from the quarterback. So, kind of right place, right time, I think, for the 49ers, having their backup quarterback being so good and such a good fit for this system.
Matt Mayoko, the voice you hear with us on the UMA guest line, moving into hour number 2 here on a Friday. George Kittle said yesterday that he fully tore his hamstring in week 1, and that makes sense as to why he was ruled out so quickly there in the second quarter of that opener in Seattle. In what areas will George Kittle help this team the most? Because there are many, but this team could use a lot of boosting on the offensive side, and George Kittle, if he's able to go and play that full load, that's going to go a long way.
Well, I think the area he helps the most is the area where they've been the most deficient, and that's in the running game. And I think it's not only what he brings from a tangible standpoint of what he brings in the running game, which is being an outstanding blocker, but it's also kind of tearing resources from the defense away from the run game. I don't think the defenses will be able to stack the box and play the run like they've done here for most of the first 6 games of the season, because just having Kittle out there for the 49ers, there's like a bigger threat in the passing game that they pose. So, teams can't just load the box. They're going to have to be wary of George Kittle as a pass, as a route runner and as a pass catcher. And then you take that part of it, where teams can't sell out to stop the run like they have in the early portion of the season, and then add in just what he brings as a blocker. So I think that is the one area, and it's kind of twofold, or it's multi-layered, why he helps out in the run game. So I mean, just think about what the 49ers have done in the run game. Since Kyle Shanahan became coach, I mean that's been the offense. That's been the staple. That's been the given. Is it doesn't matter who the running backs are, and usually it seems like other than a couple of years there, Christian McCaffrey, and this year being another season with McCaffrey, but it's been a different running back almost every year. And the one constant has been they've always been able to run the football and run it successfully. This year, they are so far down from what they ordinarily generate. I mean, 3.1 yards per carry. I mean, I think their previous worst was Shanahan's first year. They're 4.1. So, they're a full yard worse than their previous worst. And for the most part, they've been up around, 4.8. So you're talking more than a yard and a half per carry. And, Kittle plays a huge role in that. So, I don't know that it's going to happen overnight. I think there's got to be a lot of timing synced up, and, it takes a little bit of time, I think, for a team to be hitting on all cylinders in the running game. But ultimately, when Kittle's back and he stays back, that's the area where the 49ers offense will show the greatest improvement.
Matt Maiocco with us as we look ahead to Niners and Falcons coming up Sunday night. One of the things I noticed on the practice field yesterday is that when the team was getting together at the beginning of the practice, in the middle of the field, you heard some of the veterans going, Tatum, Bethune, basically saying, hey, do what Fred did, which was kind of circle everybody up. But the reality is the 49ers are going to miss Fred Warner in an incredible way. He was playing the best football of his career. As soon as he went out last week, the Bucs scored touchdowns on 3 of their next 4 drives. Without him in the middle, Baker Mayfield went 11 for 13 for 154 yards and a touchdown between the numbers. I mean, they just didn't have an answer. What do you think? How do you think Bethune's going to play? And obviously, Salah's going to have to get creative here. Will we see 3, the big nickel with 3 safeties? You think we'll see some wrinkles here? I mean, they're going to have to try to bust out the kitchen sink to cover for Fred.
Yeah, I think you will see big nickel. Yeah, I would think that that would be Jason Pinnock. 49ers didn't play any big nickel last week, and I think that's where they thought that they would going into the game, but just the matchups and the personnel groupings that the Bucs put out there kind of took that away from the 49ers game plan. And so I do think that there will be big nickel. Mustafa will play a lot more. He'll start. I think Jair Brown's going to be out there every snap. I think Siegel will mix in a little bit, whereas last week Siegel had most of the snaps from that one safety position and Mustafa mixed in. I think it's going to be the opposite this week. And then Pinnock as potentially the big nickel. One interesting thing, I talked to Kyle Shanahan about this yesterday. When he got on that plane to come home, he was not in a good way. And he watched the film immediately, and everything he saw from that film was just he did it through a lens of negativity, because he knew that Warner had either, as he's watching the film, Warner either was going to get injured when he rewatched that film, or Warner had already been injured and he knew that he wouldn't have him for the rest of the season. Then he kind of regrouped and rewatched it, and he felt good about a lot of the young guys and how they played, to the point where when he got the team together on Wednesday, he showed them all the good plays, and he actually showed them plays from Fred Warner's first game. And back in 2018, when Warner played his first game against the Minnesota Vikings, and he showed some of the the good things that Fred did as a rookie playing his first game, and some of the things that he didn't do well. And the point was that this team has talent, and there are guys who are playing at a very high level who are even comparable to what Fred Warner was in his first season. So it's a matter of, we all know what happened with Fred. He worked hard. He learned everything there was to learn, and he got better and better and better. And so his challenge to the young guys was, you might not end up being Fred Warner, but look at where he started and look where you started, and you're not far off. So that was his way of kind of motivating these guys and showing them that, hey, the season isn't lost. It's a matter of, buttoning up the things that went wrong. And, he showed about 10 plays where everything was great and very encouraging. And then he showed about 5 plays where, the Bucks ended up getting like 200 yards on those 5 plays and a couple of touchdowns, and said, look, that it wasn't because you're not good enough. It was because mistakes were made, whether assignment, communication, eyes in the wrong place. It wasn't because they lacked the talent. So, that was the challenge. That was the motivation that he decided to put out there to the team. And so we'll see. I mean, he said he felt a lot better watching the film the second time and kind of coming to grips with, okay, Fred's not going to be here. How can we make this work with the guys who are here? And he said he came away kind of inspired that there is a lot of talent in these young guys, and this is a tremendous opportunity for those guys to get better and learn and grow as the season goes on.
Matt, I understand there's a lot of layers to what I'm about to ask you, but the general consensus is that John Lynch is less eager to make trades after losing both Warner and Bosa for the year. However, there are teams out there that are looking for a receiver in the middle of the season, such as the Steelers, the Giants. Would the 49ers trade Jauan Jennings in the middle of the season despite the injuries? Because, yes, it happens over the course of a game, but there was a lot of fuss made over him and Shanahan yelling at each other. And on top of that, Kendrick Bourne has come in and had this ultimate revival here.
I think that the only deterrent for the 49ers making a trade would be what does it do for next season? In other words, I think they can make a trade. I think I would even say they probably will make a trade, but it has to be something that makes sense for the future. I think we all can agree that whatever the 49ers do this season, it's not as great as it could be if Warner and Bosa were out there. And I think you could also say that whatever they do this season, their ceiling is much higher next year, assuming Bosa comes back from the clean ACL tear and Warner comes back, and they're expecting a full recovery from him, 3, 4, 5 months down the road. So I think that everything they do or would consider would have to be through the lens of not necessarily what it does for this season, but how does it set the team up for the future? So when you ask that question, would they consider trading Jauan Jennings or, one of their safeties? I would say that the answer would have to be yes, because you do have to consider, and I think they probably right now have a good idea potentially of what the market would be for Jauan Jennings. Right now it's not as much as it would have been, had we been talking trade a year ago or 6 months ago, when he's coming off that really great 2024 season. So I think everything has to be on the table, and not necessarily because of the sideline issue. Those are two guys that are fiery. They have a lot of passion. I don't know if there's any carryover from that. We see it all the time. Guys, good friends, guys who have good rapport. So, they get after it on the sideline, and it doesn't mean that it's the way they are and there's no mending fences. But I would think that almost anything that comes across their table as far as dealing a player or receiving a player, they'd have to consider everything. So from that standpoint, would it shock me? No, not at all. I think that they'd have to kind of consider all those options, and also the number one factor would have to be what is the likelihood or the possibility that Jauan Jennings, entering the final 11 games of this season, what are the odds of them being able to re-sign him for next year? And if they feel like at this point they wouldn't be able to re-sign him, then I think they would owe it to themselves to look at what they could get in a trade and then consider it from that point forward.
It's interesting. Lynch kind of downplayed it, and the Niners are going to downplay it. But and it isn't a big deal. I mean, it's a volatile business. A couple of my buddies were like, "Dude, they got to get rid of JJ." He's arguing with Shanahan. I'm like, bro, this ain't Deloitte and Touche. This is not an accounting firm where everybody sits at their desk and these guys MF each other to their faces all the time, and everybody gets over it. It's football in 2025. Yeah. It's just the way it is. It's a different culture. It's hard to describe it, but you can't compare NFL culture to corporate America. It just doesn't fly. One of the things I got to ask you about, though, I thought was interesting and surprised me this week is the Commanders signed Drake Jackson to their active roster. Yeah. Drew Rosenhaus got him a deal with the Commanders. Obviously, Adam Peters must have been the guy that liked him, but then I also heard that he's not going to play for a while and he's still not ready to go and this and that, and they're just kind of stashing him. And then I also heard that the 49ers had interest in signing him, but that he wanted a fresh start in Washington. Can you confirm that, Matt, that the Niners wanted interest or wanted Drake Jackson back?
I can't confirm that, but I think that it's logical that he would want a fresh start. I mean, not to compare him to Jake Moody, two completely different circumstances and in completely different positions. But hey, just some guys just would rather not go down that road again, and they want to see what it's like out there. I mean, it didn't work for Drake Jackson, and obviously a lot of that had to do with his medical condition and the knee issues and the injuries that he had. But for some guys, they just feel like they need a change of scenery, that it just wasn't working here, so why not try something different? So I can't confirm that, but to me that seems totally rational and reasonable and logical that he would want to go somewhere else and just kind of see what he can do at some other location.
Matt, we've been greedy with your time, so we appreciate it every single Friday. Lots to get into the next time we catch up, and I'm out here in Berkeley, so you're going to be tuning into a little Cal UNC tonight?
Well, of course, yes, absolutely. Right now, I will say I'm not in Santa Clara right now. I'm an annual tradition for me. I'm at the Jim Capu Memorial Golf Tournament. He was an officer in Vallejo who was killed in the line of duty many years ago. Well, not many, maybe 15 years ago. And so it's a neat fundraiser for Pacific Police Athletic League activities. So maybe on my way back home from Napa, I'll swing by and say hi.
Matty,
awesome.
Good to talk to you, Matty. Always great to hear your voice, and we always love your breakdown.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.